Welcome back, everyone. Spring and summer is a time for new growth and taking bold action together. So we hope these stories can inspire you to live boldly, take wise chances, and with our friends and family, make a difference together. Today we will be reading A Journey to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, retold by Billy Aronson. So as we lean in with the spirit of adventure, grab a friend, like Jade here, and let's enjoy the story together. Chapter 21, Journey's End. I must have been unconscious because the next thing I knew, Hans was holding onto my arm. I wasn't badly hurt, but I had been bruised in many places. I realized that I was lying near the edge of a cliff. By grabbing me just in time, Hans had once again saved my life. My uncle, who lay a few feet away, had also been saved by Hans. "Where are we?" I asked my uncle. Hans shrugged. As my eyes adjusted to the light, I looked around and was amazed. I expected to see snow-capped mountains and glaciers. I saw none. Instead, I saw bright rays of sunlight pouring across green hills. The weather was warm. We stood there half naked, and the sun seemed to greet us with its light and warmth. It was fine to behold the sun after 2 months underground, but we could have done without the warmth. Clearly, we were not in an Arctic region, were we? At the foot of the mountain, we could see a lovely sea, a little port, and a crowd of houses. There was also a forest of olive trees, fig trees, and vines full of grapes. Just then, above our heads, a jet flame shot up from a crater. "We should head down this mountain," my uncle observed, "or we will be injured by flying rocks." We hurried down the slippery slope, taking care to avoid streams of hot lava and piles of ash. Along the way, my uncle snatched up our belongings, which had been scattered across the mountain. When we came to the bottom, we found ourselves surrounded by fruit trees. Unable to control our hunger or thirst another moment, we plucked pomegranates, grapes, and olives as fast as we could. Then we found a spring of fresh water nearby, where we eagerly drank our fill. As we were washing our hands, we saw a child spying on us from behind an olive tree. Though he was dressed in rags, we looked far worse than he. Our clothes were much more badly torn, and our hair was matted and scraggly. In fact, we were so horrid looking that when the boy caught sight of us, he began to run away. After a brief chase, my uncle brought the youngster back to him and asked where we were. In one language after another, my uncle asked the name of the mountain on which we had landed, but whatever language my uncle tried, the boy gave no answer. I began to wonder if I might be deaf. Finally, my uncle tried asking his question in Italian, and the boy responded. "Stromboli!" he cried, and dashed off in the bushes. "Stromboli, Stromboli!" I chanted. My uncle joined in, dancing as we sang these words together. We were on an island in the center of the Mediterranean. We had entered the earth in one volcano and came out through another, thousands of miles away. Our journey that had started in gray Iceland had finished beneath the blue sky of Sicily. On our trip down the mountain towards town, we decided not to tell townspeople how we arrived there. They would never believe us. Instead, we told them that we were shipwrecked travelers. "How did I blunder so badly in figuring our location?" my uncle kept muttering. Again and again, I calculated that we were moving north, when in fact we were moving south. "I suppose," I said, "there are some things we just can't explain." A distinguished professor of geology insisted should be able to use a compass. As we reached the town, Hans asked to be paid for his 13th week of services. My uncle paid him and shook his hand warmly. For the first time in weeks, Hans smiled. Local fishermen gave us clothes and food, then put us on a ship headed for France. After arriving there, we spent a week or so making our way northward across Europe. Finally, on the evening of October 9th, we arrived in Hamburg. Martha was shocked that we were still alive. Gretchen cried tears of joy. "Home at last!" "Now, Axel," she said, you've really become a hero, so you have no excuse to leave me ever again." Because Martha was a gossip, news of our departure had already spread throughout Hamburg and around the world. People were amazed to learn that my uncle had returned in one piece. They were even more amazed when he described what we had seen and presented one fossil after another's proof. At a meeting of great scientists, he told the whole story of his adventures, leaving out only the confusion about our location. He ended by saying how sorry he was that we never did get to follow the great Sakusum's tracks to the center of the earth, but my uncle's modesty just made the other scientists respect him more. Not long after our return, something happened that made my uncle quite sad. Hans decided to leave Hamburg despite anything my uncle could say. The man was homesick. "Farvel," Hans said. My uncle shook Hans's hand many times. Although Hans didn't display as much emotion as we, he did allow his feelings to show just a little. With the tips of 2 fingers, he gently pressed our hands, and then he smiled. I will never forget the brave duck hunter who saved our lives. The story of our journey was translated and printed in many languages. It caused a stir all around the world. My uncle enjoyed the fame and fortune he richly deserved. You can even find his statue in wax museums. In spite of his success, one thing continued to bother him. our error in figuring out our location. Then one day, when he was working in his lab, I noticed the compass we had brought with us and examined it. Suddenly I whooped aloud. My uncle came running. "What's the matter?" he cried. "The compass!" I shouted. "Its needle points south, not north." "My dear boy, you must be dreaming," he insisted. "I'm not dreaming, Uncle," I said. "The poles are changed." When he saw that I was right, he was overjoyed. "I see it now. By the time we reached Cape Saknussemm, the compass must have been reversed. So we really did cross the Central Sea after all. We really did pass beneath all of Europe. Cape Saknussemm really was beneath the Mediterranean, as I had predicted." "And I think I understand how the poles of the compass became reversed," I claimed. "During the storm, when that ball of fire magnetized our raft, it must have turned the compass topsy-turvy." "Pesty old fireball." "Yes," my uncle cried with a loud, joyous laugh. "It was a trick of that strange electricity." About a month later, the Prince of Hamburg held a celebration in my uncle's honor. People from all over Germany came to get a look at the world-famous scientist. The speeches were about to begin, and the town square was packed. When the prince presented my uncle, the crowd went wild. People from one end of the square to the other screamed, cheered, and threw their caps into the air for Professor Lindenbrock, the bold scientist who had led our historic journey to the center of the earth. They made it! They went hundreds of miles below the earth, saw thrilling sights no one had ever seen before, and lived to tell the tale, and what a gripping tale it is. Science has come a long way since Francis' day. We now know that no one could really go deep into the earth without burning up, since the center of the earth is about 12,000 degrees. Talk about central heat. We also know more about the dinosaurs and prehistoric mammals that people did in Burns' day. If you check out a book about prehistoric animals, you find that some of Burns' descriptions of those beasts are not correct. On the other hand, some of Burns' hunches were later proven to be accurate. He was right about our human ancestors' bones and tools would be found in caves. He was right that there was a lot of water below the surface of the earth. He was also right about uses that could be made of different types of electricity. Burns' most important contribution to science, however, isn't any one specific discovery. It's his whole way of looking at the unknown with his imagination. The road to a great discovery begins with an imaginative guess. Verne himself wasn't a scientist or an explorer, but his imagined journeys pointed countless others towards real journeys that led to real discoveries. Among the people inspired by his books were the inventors of the submarine, the rocket, and the telegraph, and the first explorers to reach the North Pole, the South Pole, and outer space. Even today, Burns' books are still inspiring people. How about you? Do you think the book you just read might lead you to a bold quest? To try to figure out something about the way the universe works? To look out for a way of solving a problem no one has ever thought of? Could you make a great discovery? It might seem like a great deal to expect of yourself, but if you put your mind to it, who knows? After all, as the great Professor Lindenbrock says, air, fire, and water combined cannot defeat the will of a man. Or a cute little dog. See ya! I wanted to show you one thing before we leave for today. All right, watch from up here. And he runs along the edge of the book. So well done. Well, I hope you enjoyed Wishbone Classic, A Journey to the Center of the Earth. And join us next time for another great adventure.